Hello, my name is Marc van Roon. I'm the pianist of European Jazz Trio, and you're listening to In Love with Jazz with Roger Chung.
又翻到嚟 Dear About 爵士鍾情 In Love with Jazz， 每逢星期六晚9點到11點嘅時間，有我 Roger 聰鍾一諾同大家聽一啲非常之正嘅爵士音樂，包括我哋啱啱聽過嘅呢一首由 European Jazz Trio 嚟到重新演繹 Ennio Morricone 嘅電影配樂名作 Cinema Paradiso。咁即係當然啦，即係如果播得呢一首歌，大家都知道我今日嘅嘉賓會係邊一個啦，係嘛？一定係同 European Jazz Trio 有關啦。咁今日咧，我係邀請咗呢一隊嘅三重奏嘅bandleader Marc van Roon 上到嚟同大家去傾下偈嘅。但係我哋傾偈之先咧，我有啲非常之好嘅消息話俾大家聽嘅。咁個好消息就係咧，我哋會由呢個 Jazz Marathon 嘅主辦單位咧送出一啲嘅飛俾大家。咁咧，大家需要做啲乜可以攞到呢一個票嚟到去睇呢一場 Jazz Marathon 咧？今次嘅呢個 Jazz Marathon 咧，第一 Jazz Marathon 有3日㗎嚇，今次有4月26日嘅星期五晚啦，4月27日嘅星期六晚啦，同埋4月28日嘅星期日嘅朝頭早，即係 afternoon 下午嘅時間，3日嘅 OK。嗱咁咧，我哋當然啦，即係我哋 random 咁樣會送出一啲嘅飛啦。咁但係咧，如果大家想要啲飛，要做啲乜咧？嗱，就係咁樣，就係去到 Facebook page，OK，我哋嘅爵士鍾情 Facebook page，inbox 我。PM 我 OK，PM 爵士鍾情嘅 Facebook page 話俾我聽，你咁多個 interview 裏邊，你最 enjoy 嗰個係邊一個咧？喺 Jazz Marathon 嘅嚇，講啱名字嘅，我哋有2張飛送俾你嘅 OK， 先到先得 OK， 咁而家即刻開始㗎啦，即刻開始可以咧去到我哋嘅 Facebook page 嚟到去，除咗打卡之外當然要打卡啦，係 PM OK。爵士鍾情嘅 Facebook page 話俾我聽，究竟你最 enjoy 今次 Jazz Marathon 嘅咁多個 interview 裏邊邊一個咧？咁樣咁當然啦，仲有3個喎，你話係咪？咁冇所謂嘅，總之大家支持我哋，亦都會有好嘢送翻俾大家。OK， 咁今日咧 European Jazz Trio 嘅 Marc van Roon 上到嚟同我去傾下偈啦。咁我喺第一個環節嗰度啦，咁當然啦就會話俾大家聽佢哋嘅呢一場 show 係4月27日星期六晚喺荃灣 Town Hall Auditorium 嗰度，所以咧佢係同 Moses Rosenberg 係同一晚嘅 OK。而之後咧我就問下佢關於佢哋嘅呢一個三重奏嘅風格問下佢係咪會帶呢啲Ennio Morricone 或者係 Joe Hisaishi 久石讓嘅 Jazz 得版會過嚟香港同大家分享。咁當然佢就會話喂，呢啲都係佢哋全新大碟裏邊嘅一啲嘅歌曲啦。咁佢哋嘅全新大碟咧 somehow 咧錄下咧就變成咗 movie theme songs OK， 一啲佢話個 melody 個旋律非常之好聽嘅電影嘅主題曲帶到去同香港嘅觀眾嚟到去分享。咁亦都有繼續問咧，就係咦咁佢哋其實一開始嘅時候 European Jazz Trio 係點樣將呢一啲嘅唔同嘅元素 incorporate 落去啦即係用爵士嘅方法嚟到玩呢啲嘅 pop song movie theme song 甚至係 classical。咁佢就會由呢一個歷史開始講起，講到去一開始嘅佢嘅日本嘅監製啦，話俾佢哋聽呢一個係一個幾好嘅 combination， 佢 envision 到佢哋可以做呢一樣嘢，而佢亦都有帶出一樣嘢就係話，其實佢從來冇諗過玩呢一啲嘅音樂嘅一開始，咁所以好 interesting 嘅。原來你發現artist 係可以有 flexibility， 甚至係可以有一種可造性喺度嘅，即係個意思有啲嘅 artist 唔一定係覺得我一定要將我自己嘅所有嘅風格咧，就係照板煮碗咁樣去呈現俾大家原來係可以經過一啲嘅 discussion 討論之後咧，將佢變成一啲可以塑造嘅 嘅材料變成咗佢，亦都係將佢自己嘅風格注入咗入去呢一種嘅音樂裏邊，但係佢係完全冇諗過自己係會玩呢一種類型嘅爵士音樂嘅喎，所以呢個係一個非常之 interesting 嘅 story 同大家去分享咯。咁所以咧，事不宜遲，我哋不如即刻去聽下呢一個 interview with Marc van Roon of European Jazz Trio. Wow, this is a great jazz version of Cinema Paradiso by the European Jazz Trio. And I have to say, because, for the people who actually listen to this podcast, this show, In Love with Jazz with Roger Chung, they know that I love Ennio Morricone. And this is like the perfect combination for me because I love Ennio Morricone and I love jazz, and European Jazz Trio is bringing all these things together. And today we have the pianist of the European Jazz Trio, Marc van Roon, or am I pronouncing your last name correctly? How do you do it?
Well, if you do it very English, American, it would be Marc van Roon.
Sure.
But if you in the Netherlands, they would say Marc van Roon. It's a little bit different. So there's variation in between, like Marc van Roon or Marc van Roon, anything like that.
I'm going to do it the Netherlands way, which is Marc van Roon.
Oh, that's very good. That's very good. Yes.
And it is really a great pleasure to have you on my show today. And wow, I mean, this is your new album, right? Can you tell us a little bit about this album?
Yeah, with pleasure. And first of all, thanks for having me on your wonderful show and giving me the opportunity to, explore these new adventures with you. And this album was a collection of mainly beautiful melodies and songs written for movies, animation movies, and and the movies that Ennio Morricone that you mentioned wrote the music to. So mainly that, but we also did a couple, 2 classical pieces, and actually I think it's Chinese traditional song, Jasmine Flower. So it's a collection of different materials, but the main theme would be, besides we love to play beautiful melodies, the theme that came out was, hey, we did a lot of movie melodies. So that was nice.
Wow. So now I'm interviewing you today because there is a very important event that is going to happen in Hong Kong for jazz aficionados. That is the Jazz Marathon, right? So the Jazz Marathon is an annual event in Hong Kong, and this time the European Jazz Trio is going to come to Hong Kong on April 27th, which is a Saturday, 8 p.m., a weekend Saturday night at the Tsuen Wan Town Hall Auditorium. And is that going to be the repertoire you're going to bring over here to Hong Kong? Because this is very exciting.
Yes, it is. We love to play. We're planning to do a combination of the songs from the newest album that will be released. And then a couple of the songs that we have been playing for a long time, because the European Jazz Trio exists for quite a while. We did about 30 albums already. So we're going to choose like a couple of the best of that we like to play so much.
Please. Wow. I mean, and European Jazz Trio, this is a great name, and I have to ask you. I was reading some of the biography of you guys. It seems like you guys actually started in 1995. Is that correct?
Well, actually, it even started a little bit earlier. But yes, in 1995, we did the first album together with Beatles songs, Memories of Liverpool. That's it, yeah. And then we kept going since then.
Wow. Yeah. So 30 plus albums. This is just really, really amazing. I mean, just to think of this number is like...
Yes. But it is, and we exist about 30 years, so then it is about 1 album per year. But there were more. There were special releases in Japan, special releases in Korea with Korean songs, something we like to do. And then we have pop albums with pop songs, with classical repertoire. We did a lot. So the main theme always is the beautiful melody.
Right.
The beautiful melody that people can connect with and have good feelings and memories when they hear those melodies. And that's a special thing, that people anywhere in the world they can hear a melody. Yeah, then they think, oh yeah, that beautiful movie or that great feeling, and so in that sense, melodies can unite people, and that is something that we are very privileged to play for people all over the place.
So the European Jazz Trio, you guys' repertoire is so huge. I have to say, it's not just about jazz. It's not just about standards that we always listen to, but also about pop music and you were talking about movies and classical. So how did you guys decide that, okay, this is the direction that we're going to go when you guys just started?
Actually, that was the gift, right? That came to us because we worked with a famous Japanese producer in the beginning, Mr. Makoto Kimata. And he came to us with the idea, basically, to also play some jazz versions of classical music. And first I thought that's a little strange, right? Classical music and then jazz version. But then he said, well, it's all melodies and songs, and most of it then. And I started to think about it, and I thought, well, most of the standards that I play, they're also songs for movies and musicals and Broadway, and some of the classical music was written for dance evenings in the court, or Chopin wrote it for soirees, beautiful afternoons with people in Paris. And so then I thought, that's interesting, right? It's all about the melody. It's all about the song. And so we started really focusing on that. How can we transcend, move beyond style, I would say, and just try to play and arrange melodies. And we always arrange it in a little bit of a jazzy way. We add a rhythm to it. We maybe some more chords, some harmonies. And we love doing that. People respond to that. It's also opening up some of the classical music to another audience that doesn't know classical music, or it introduces people to jazz music that don't know jazz music. So it's really a wonderful thing to do for us.
So this is a unique opportunity for someone like me who listens to a lot of jazz music to kind of tap into the history of, for example, European Jazz Trio. Before they get started, this story is very unique because you were just saying, well, it seems like a kind of a strange idea, right? So it wasn't, something, because we would assume that European Jazz Trio, when they first started, they recorded this album of, Lennon and McCartney songs, Beatles. And that would be the direction that you guys have already decided before you recorded these tunes. But this story is very interesting, because then I was wondering when you were talking about, the start of European Jazz Trio, I was wondering about your influences, right? So if I have to ask you, what were some of the most original influences of your music? How would you describe it?
Well, we all three have similar influence, like I would say Bill Evans Trio, like really a very beautiful jazz piano trio.
Of course.
Right? And of course, Keith Jarrett Trio is very inspiring always. And there are many others, but the thing is that that is a source of inspiration, but not something that we try to copy or something. We really did, with the three musicians, with Roy on drums and Franz on the bass. What happened in these last 30 years is that we really grew together, and with all the recordings and all the concerts, we found a couple grooves and a couple approaches to playing jazz that really made the trio sound good. Not us individually, but as a trio.
Yeah.
Right? At some point we said, but the way we play now, that really makes the trio sound good. And that wasn't necessarily what we were intending to do individually. Right? But it is something that grew out of three musicians trying to make good music, right? And honoring the melody. And a certain style emerged, which I never would have predicted that would happen.
Yes.
It wasn't a conscious decision in that sense. Like, let's play like this, right? It grew.
It's jazz. Basically.
Yes, but it's also different because in this trio because I did a lot of classical piano training and studying, and I use a lot of that classical playing, I would say.
Right.
And the drummer is also very serving the melody. Is playing usually soft and very serving way.
Let me rephrase it. When I say it's jazz, I mean the spirit of jazz.
Yes.
That you kind of like improvise along the way, and you're always instantly creating something new.
That's true.
This is great. Let's listen to another tune from your new album. Why don't you pick this one? Because you were talking about a mix of classical and jazz together. Why don't we pick one that has these kind of elements together?
Well, we could, for example, there's one song that is the oldest song. It's written by Johann Sebastian Bach, right? It's very classical, and it's called Siciliano. It's also the title of the album. And because it represents a certain, I would say, Southern European atmosphere. And there was an influence at the time between Germany, Bach, and Italy. They had different styles, but they were also already influencing each other. Yes. Right? So Bach wrote English suites, French suites, and so there was Europe was a place where people had different styles, but they were using those styles. They were inspiring each other, and I love that. This is in a day and age when there's no internet, when they had to drive for hours to see another concert, but still they managed. This Bach, he managed to write a piece with an Italian influence, right? Isn't that amazing? Yeah. So I think he was much more of a jazzy kind of cat than we think of him.
He probably
and he could improvise. Sorry?
They probably rode on carriage.
Probably. No
car.
Car, no internet. It was amazing.
I always feel that Bach is a jazz player.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. And he improvised, right?
Yes, and I could never get enough of Bach. So here you go. This is European Jazz Trio playing Siciliano. 啱啱聽完嘅呢一個係 European Jazz Trio 版本嘅 J.S. Bach 音樂之父 Classical 音樂之父 J.S. Bach 嘅作品 Siciliano 係咪好正呢？我真係覺得好正喎。咁啊，由呢一度第二 part 嘅 interview 咧，我就開始問佢啦。因為佢哋其實喺日本啊、南韓咧，其實都係好受歡迎嚇，尤其是佢哋嘅監製都係日本人嚟㗎嘛嚇。咁啊，贏過一啲嘅Pole Award 啊，喺日本嘅一啲嘅著名嘅爵士嘅 magazine 嗰度嚇。咁但係今次咧，佢哋會第一次嚟香港啦，咁會帶一啲咩嘅音樂嚟啦，係咪？咁啊，亦都會問到佢哋嘅呢一個名啊，呢一隊隊伍嘅名啊嚇 ，European Jazz Trio 歐洲爵士三重奏其實係嚇點解會係用呢個名嘅咧？咁樣咁佢就話 honestly 啊嚇，即係其實只係因為當陣時佢哋嘅監製起名就起咗呢個名，佢話亦都可以係叫做荷蘭爵士三重奏嘅，但係佢又覺得叫 European Jazz Trio 又真係幾好喎，係嘛？即係你會好容易記得，咁又真嘅呢個嚇。咁但係佢就話呢一個名咧，其實係好 embody 到佢哋做緊嘅音樂嘅，因為佢哋三個都係其實荷蘭人啦，都係 from Europe 啦，喺歐洲嗰度。而歐洲嘅音樂其實係好着重嗰個 melody 嘅，咁啊個旋律咧一定要行先，而佢哋亦都係將唔同嘅音樂嘅元素啦，包括即係 Europe 嘅 classical music 啦，當然係古典音樂啦，同埋pop music， 尤其是佢哋啱啱開始錄音嘅時候、出道嘅時候，其實係玩第一隻碟係玩 Beatles 啊嘛嚇。Lennon McCartney 嘅音樂都係歐洲人嚟嘅，佢話嚇。咁之後咧，佢哋就慢慢 venture into 去玩呢一啲嘅包括一啲即係亞洲嘅風格嘅音樂啦，亞洲嘅 tunes 啊，例如佢話佢好記得當陣時佢嘅監製俾咗呢一出《千與千尋》去睇啦，即係呢個宮崎駿嘅動畫啊，咁啊個音樂當然就係久石讓嘅音樂啦。佢睇完之後佢非常之中意，所以咧就開始用爵士嘅風格嚟到去玩呢啲嘅音樂啦，亦都即係揀咗以下落嚟咧，即係我哋一陣會聽到嘅咧就係龍貓 Path of the Wind 龍貓裏邊嘅音樂。咁佢其實佢亦都講咗咧，就係佢其中嘅一個嘅 inspiration， 除咗係一啲最大家即刻諗到嘅 trio 嘅 inspiration 之外，例如 Bill Evans、Keith Jarrett 啊呢啲之外咧，佢話 Pat Metheny 其實係佢嘅一個好大嘅 inspiration， 因為佢話你一聽 Pat Metheny 嘅音樂咧，佢話你即刻就開心㗎啦。佢話佢都希望喺佢哋自己音樂裏邊咧做到呢一樣嘢。而最後我問佢一個問題就係你覺得所謂嘅 European 或者 Asian 嘅 approach 有冇啲咩唔一樣？佢話佢對於佢嚟講咧就係佢會用唔同嘅風格嚟到 approach 呢啲嘅唔同嘅 melody， 但係 melody 一定係行先。所以佢話佢對於佢嚟講，佢發現原來佢哋都好有一種 Asian approach 啩，因為發現亞洲嘅風格、亞洲 approach 其實都係將 melody 擺先嘅嚇，個旋律係最重要嘅嚇。咁所以咧喺度我哋事不宜遲，聽下第二段嘅 interview 啊。European Jazz Trio playing Siciliano by J.S. Bach. Wow, this is a great version. I always love Bach. I mean, this album I'm going to really get the hard copy because I love all the tunes in there.
Well, thank you.
Elements, jazzing up these Bach and Morricone, and then you also have Joe Hisaishi. Wow, I mean, it's just like all these beautiful, beautiful melodies, as you said. Now, this is something that I really want to ask you is, how did you decide to put a continent in the name of your band?
A continent, Europe.
Europe.
Yes. Well, actually, the honest answer, Roger, is that it was a suggestion by the Japanese producer, Makoto Kimata. He really liked that. And we had to think about that for a second, but we liked it too. It has a good ring, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it does. It does. And when you kind of tell people that, oh, we're the European Jazz Trio, what do you think is the connotation, the content, the meaning of that word? Does it carry any intrinsic meaning to the kind of music that you guys are playing?
In a way, yes, because it is a representation of the idea that we improvise, like you said, like the jazz element of it, but we're also focusing on melody, transcending differences of style, and mostly European melodies, I would say. Sometimes we do, of course, the American songbook, but a lot of it is classical. It's European. The Beatle album, that's European. Ennio Morricone is European. But at some point we moved away from that when we started including Japanese composers, Korean composers, and then we really focused on the melody. But it is, we want to bring a little bit of the European culture into the jazz element, some kind of combination that we're looking for.
And of course, you guys are all from Europe. You're from the Netherlands.
Yes.
Frans is also from Netherlands, I suppose.
We all are, yes.
All are. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's why you guys are embodying that. No, I'm just wondering, why is it not something like the Holland Jazz Trio?
That would have been a possibility. Yes.
But I know that you guys are very big in Japan and Korea. Have you been to Hong Kong before?
No, this is the first time. That's why I'm so excited.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, we
fantastic.
Definitely welcome you guys, and I think we're getting very, very excited. And the audience of this show is definitely going to get more and more excited, because you guys are actually bringing some of these reinterpretation of Asian tunes to us. I mentioned Joe Hisaishi. So
yes.
Asia, I think we all grew up watching those anime movies.
Yeah.
Especially, everybody loved My Neighbor Totoro. It's just,
yeah.
It's part of the collective memory of all Asians, whether it's Japanese or Korean or people from Hong Kong, Chinese. So tell us why you guys decided to. I suppose, this is my guess, is because your manager is a Japanese. Your producer is a Japanese guy.
Yeah.
So
that is part of it. Yes.
Okay.
But we had another wonderful producer. At some point, we worked with a team, 2 producers, and Mr. Hiro Yamashita, and he amazing producer also, and he gave me the DVD of the Sento Chihiro, The Spirited Away. He said, "Here's a DVD, watch it, maybe you like it." So this happened during a tour, so I took it back home, and this was around Christmas 2003, somewhere there, so 20 years ago. I was watching that, and I was like, wow, this is amazing, right? This is so beautiful. And I was watching it in a beautiful place, and there was snow. It was in the Netherlands here, in the forest, and I'm watching it. And I watched all the other movies that I could watch, all those, Princess Mononoke, I remember, and My Neighbor Totoro. So all of that I started watching in the years after. And then I think the first song we recorded was it's a demo, Nando demo, from the Sento Chihiro, from The Spirited Away. It's on one of the older albums.
Yeah, that's a great.
And
I'm wondering why you didn't do this one.
We already did it.
Yeah. Yes.
But that's the one that has vocals, right? At the also beautifully sung.
But this time you guys are actually playing My Neighbor Totoro. Sorry, Path of the Wind. Tell us
we do.
About this rendition of the tune.
Well, we did also a tour in Korea where we arranged all these Joe Hisaishi songs. Yeah. And we did in Seoul there's a beautiful concert hall, Lotte Concert Hall, and there we performed an evening of Ghibli and Disney songs and compositions. And this was actually I made an arrangement of this for that evening, and it's I really wanted the element of the wind in there. So it's it begins like that. So it's also, I think, always when I play that song live, I also always have to think a little bit of the style of Pat Metheny, right? He has this wonderful style that is. You asked about inspirations earlier. I mentioned Bill Evans, but I think Pat Metheny is another one. Mm-hmm. The way his jazz is also very. It's almost movie music in a way, right? And it's great, amazing music that if you're in a car, you're on a holiday, you hear Pat Metheny in the car, I'm instantly happy, right? So I always go for that element. That's something that I admire so much. How can you do that? Right?
I would be very happy to do that. I mean, so that's like a real purpose of life, right? To make people happy.
For me, yes. I'm happy you say that.
Definitely.
Yes, and to bring a good feeling, right? Yeah. To bring a moment of joy, or a moment of it could be happiness, but it could also be a quiet contentment, right? Sometimes people come to a concert and they're just they don't say anything, they have no words, but I know they're being touched, right? And they're just quiet and content. They had a valuable moment. Yeah. So happiness or this silent or quiet contentment, that is for me very important in the contemporary, hectic, fast, complex society we're in.
You're definitely right about that. Let me ask you one more question, and then we'll listen to Path of the Wind. Now, so these Asian tunes and European tunes and American tunes, do you guys have need to kind of adjust the approach to these melodies? Because, when you listen to a Joe Hisaishi melody, immediately you associate it with some kind of Asian flair.
Yes.
So do you have to kind of adjust the kind of approach that you're usually using it for the classical jazzed up classical tunes, or not really? You just play it and that's it. The magic is going to happen. How does it work?
Yes. Well, the magic doesn't always happen, of course, because that's one of the characteristics of magic, is that it sometimes happens, I would say. So
that's a great way to put it.
Yeah, that's really a gift if it happens. So sometimes when we're rehearsing or trying things out, we try sometimes in a lot of different styles, like different ways, different approaches. We say, let's do it as a ballad. Yeah. And then the drummer, Roy, he says, oh, this isn't really working. Can we try it in a waltz, a jazz waltz? And the bass player said, that might not be really working. How about we play it in another key and a little bit more straight rhythm? So we talk about it, we try out things, we experiment. And then if we're lucky, then we find something. Yeah. Not always. Sometimes we say, okay, let's leave this piece for another time, right? Let's work on it in the future. Yeah. And sometimes it happens really fast. Yeah. Or sometimes also I have a very specific idea of, this song would be great to play in this way. And then I'll bring it to the rehearsals and I tell Roy and Frans, can we try playing it in this way? Because that's how I hear it or envision it. But for us, it's always important that everybody can recognize the original song.
Right.
And that it's not too far away from it.
Yeah, I was just wondering, so is there something akin to like this is my approach to Asian music, as opposed to European music? Is there a difference, or it doesn't matter, the ethnicity or the origin of the tune doesn't really matter as long as it works?
Yeah, that's very much part of it. But I guess we are always a little oriented. The orientation is towards, I think, more of an Asian approach, because we love, first of all, we put the melody first. And then we pay a lot of attention to harmony. Yeah. And not too dissonant, soothing, sometimes dissonant, but then resolving into something soothing. And the rhythm is also I would say, soothing, right? And that's smooth, soothing is important. And I know that, in a lot of times in the jazz clubs in Europe, it is the opposite, because the melody they play, you can hardly recognize it, right? They're very creative, and I love that too. It's great, but we don't do that with the trio. That will be a difference, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes I go to a jam session in Amsterdam, and then the whole game has different rules. We like to play the melody. You can't recognize it. We make up our own chords. We play very disturbing rhythms, and that's another thing. But that's not the language of European jazz trio.
Right.
It's a great thing, but it's not our language. So in that sense, the orientation is, and maybe I wouldn't think of that, but maybe that's more Asian in a way, to put the melody first and to have the soothing rhythms and harmonies there.
Do you think Asian melodies would require you to play a little bit differently or approach the tunes a little bit differently from, the classical repertoires or even Western pop music?
I think the melodies in themselves, they are quite similar, because, for example, in the music of Joe Hisaishi, I hear some things are very French, right, or Southern Europe. They are Michel Legrand-like. They are Ennio Morricone-like, in a little bit, but also very different. It's very special.
Yeah.
So there is already, for me, a mix of something implicitly beautifully Asian, as far as I can hear that, and some European elements, which I find fascinating. And I mean, if the whole scene of Kiki's Delivery Service is, of course, very.
Right.
It could be European, could be Japan. I don't know. It's like his own world, right? Yeah. Where these elements integrate.
Yeah.
And I want. It's always our music can have that same kind of integration element. So, but I'm just thinking that whenever we perform with this trio, we want to be sure that the melody is clear and that everybody can recognize it and has the time. Oh, that's that melody, right? Yeah. Oh, immediately. Oh, Path of the Wind. But then to give it our own touch.
Definitely. So why don't we listen to this version by the European Jazz Trio, The Path of the Wind by Joe Hisaishi. 嚟到第三節嘅 interview 啦，咁我就問Mark 啦，咁佢知唔知道關於呢一個 third stream 嘅呢一個 movement， 同埋佢會唔會 accept 啲人咁樣去話佢哋嘅音樂，即係 label 佢哋嘅音樂咧？咁佢就話：哇，好大嘅 honour 喎！你問我呢一樣嘢，因為其實 third stream 係50年代尾60年代嘅時候嘅一個 movement 啊，喺美國嗰度咧就係將呢個爵士音樂同埋呢個古典嘅音樂咧嘅元素咧係 combine 埋一齊。佢話佢從來冇諗過自己其實係屬於呢一個 third stream 嗰個即係嗰條水啊嚇，所以佢但係當我咁樣問嘅時候，佢就話：哇，即係呢一個係一個高帽戴咗俾佢嚇，佢冇諗過，但係佢只係從佢嘅心嗰度去出發嚟到去玩呢啲嘅音樂嘅啫嚇。但係點都好，我覺得喺佢哋嘅音樂裏邊，當呢啲嘅元素集合埋一齊咧，無論佢係 third stream 又好，你叫佢做 classical jazz 又好，咩嘢都好，其實佢哋就係 embody 咗呢一種嘅 style 咯。咁所以我覺得咧，大家一定要去聽啊，因為哇玩久石讓 Ennio Morricone 喎，係嘛？呢啲咁正嘅音樂喎，冇理由要錯過啊！4月27號8點鐘喺荃灣Town Hall Auditorium 有佢哋嘅音樂，咁去到最後咧，我亦都有問下佢，因為佢嗰陣時嘅師傅咧係其中一位我自己都好欣賞嘅爵士鋼琴家 Barry Harris， 亦都有問下佢關於嗰一段嘅歷史啦，咁即係趁住呢個機會可以問佢多啲嘢。咁最後嘅一首歌咧播俾大家嘅咧，今日咧係叫做 A Town with an Ocean View， 咁亦都係呢一個魔女宅急便嘅其中一隻嘅一個配樂嚇，咁用佢哋嘅風格 European Jazz Trio嘅風格嚟到去玩，又會變成點樣啦？咁事不宜遲，我哋聽最後一段嘅interview。咁聽完呢段 interview， 聽完魔女宅急便之後，我哋第二 part 繼續有精彩嘅 interview 等住大家去聽，千祈唔好走開啊 ！That was just beautiful, Path of the Wind, one of my favorite anime movies of all time. My Neighbor Totoro. Will you guys accept this label called the third stream to describe your music, or you don't consider yourself part of that movement?
Not a lot of people know about that. It is a kind of thing. The third stream, originally, it's actually quite an honor you would suggest that. Originally, it was a movement of American jazz musicians, I would say, that were inspired by classical music.
Yeah,
but I never really understood that because Charlie Parker was influenced by classical music.
Yeah.
Monk was. Duke Ellington was. He did Tchaikovsky, the whole Nutcracker suite. Oh, no. So I never really got that label. And I never thought about it. But I have Italian students studying with me, and they're very interested in third stream. And they're also interested in European jazz trios work. So it could be, but I never thought about it like that. Right? So it is, I think, especially if you look at the music, for example, Wayne Shorter, who is another influence. You asked about influence. Yeah. I think secretly, besides Pat Metheny, there's a lot of Wayne Shorter Weather Report in my arrangements. But Wayne Shorter was always very much also influenced by classical music and movie melodies. And I think for me, a definition of jazz would be that it would be integrating movie, musical, classical, pop music implicitly. It doesn't need but not everybody agrees with me there, of course, right? So there's people who would say, no, jazz music is something from a certain group of people in a certain culture, and I can understand that, right?
That's a jazz purist, though.
Yeah. So there's
I think the conundrum is that if you're putting a lot of constraints and too much constraint to describe what is jazz, then you lose the spirit of jazz, in some sense.
Yes. And I love the way you put that, the spirit of jazz, because that is something that I feel very attracted to with European Jazz Trio. We are attracted to the spirit of jazz. And I can hear the spirit of jazz in Bach. You could hear the spirit of jazz in Bach, right? That's so special. But for some people, they are more focusing on the craftsmanship of jazz. And they define it in a very narrow little area. And that has a beautiful side to it as well, because that probably preserves something really special.
Of course.
And we're aware of that. I'm aware of the tradition, and I studied with Barry Harris. I studied tradition, and I love that. But I also feel the responsibility of us as 3 European jazz musicians to present the world with our perspective, our view, and our approach, and our love for the spirit of jazz.
Tell us just a little bit about your time with Barry Harris.
Oh, that was amazing. Now that I've mentioned it, a long time ago when I was studying in New York, I studied with Richie Byrack and Barry Harris. And the wonderful thing about Barry, I already knew him from a couple of workshops in the Netherlands, but I had the privilege to study at his house. And he was still living in the house of the Baroness, Nika de Koningswater, Pannonica, Nika's dream, right? Wow. She was this Baroness that had Barry and Monk live in her house. Yeah. I remember I played for Barry. I played a song for Barry. Right? Sorry?
Is that in New Jersey?
Yeah, it is. Yes, Hoboken, New Jersey. Yes. And then I was playing a Monk's tune for Barry, and he said, "Oh, I remember Monk composing that on the same piano that you're playing it on now." I was like, "Whoa!" Fantastic.
Yeah. Oh my God.
That was the house. It was an amazing experience for me.
Wow.
So I feel grounded in that tradition, right? I lived in New York. Many years I studied with Barry, but it's something that I also have the desire to digest all that and to see what emerges. Yeah. You know, especially what comes out, what emerges from the interplay with Franz and Roy in the European Jazz Trio. Because again, I never predicted that. It's not a conscious choice. It's a gift. It's something that arises when the 3 of us get together. Yeah. This happens. And it's not always jazzy. It's also classical. It's also poppy, right? It's a very interesting thing to do.
Yeah, and you know, to be able to interview you today is really my honor. You know, I feel like I'm talking to this person who is like culmination of all these influences together, and you know, your unique lived experiences in New York, playing the same piano that Monk played and composed, Anonica. I suppose that's the tune that you're talking about, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Indeed. Yes.
Very unique melody.
Yes.
Yeah, very unique melody. And I'm a huge Monk fan, actually, so that's why I listen to quite a lot of Barry Harris too. So that's why I gotta ask you.
Oh, okay. Yes. Yeah. Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. And it's really a great pleasure. So we're definitely looking forward to having you here in Hong Kong. How can people follow you guys on if they want to follow your music? Are you guys on social media, YouTube, etc.?
Yeah, there's a YouTube channel. European Jazz Trio. There is also Instagram. There is a Spotify, but there's also the European Jazz Trio website, europeanjazztrio.com.
Yeah.
And it has links to all the social media.
Great.
And it's a new website. Was just 2 months ago it was launched. We're still working on it. We have very soon a store will be opened up there where we will sell a lot of the arrangements that we made in notated, because I get a lot of requests from people. Okay, you send me the arrangement of this Bach song that you did, or the Beatles. So we're preparing to open a store with all that, and to allow people access to all the arrangements. So that is the website is growing and developing.
That's great. We're definitely, we'll look into that. And please follow European Jazz Trio on the internet. And please remember that they're coming over here to Hong Kong for Jazz Marathon on April 27th, 8 p.m. Saturday, Chuen Wan Town Hall Auditorium. And it will be a blast. I guarantee everybody that it's going to be a very beautiful night of great music, great arrangements, and great vibe. So thank you very much, Mark, for coming over here to this show. It's a great honor.
Well, thank you, Roger. Thank you very much, and I can't tell you how much I'm looking forward to a first
Here.
adventure in Hong Kong and to meet people and you and Clarence and everybody and the audience, everybody that wants to come to the show. It would be such an honor and pleasure to meet people and to play our music for you guys.
All right, yes. We're going to end the interview with a town with an ocean view from Kiki's Delivery.